Hi guys, my name is Steven and welcome to video number 7 in this new series where I'm creating a login registration system using Facebook Connect in CodeIgniter. Where we left off is I was getting this error and I couldn't figure out how to do it. It actually did take me some time to figure it out. But what I found out about this function, about get login URL, is if redirect underscore URI, right now I specified it to redirect underscore URL, if redirect underscore URI isn't specified, it will resubmit to the location that it was sent from. So it actually, the reason why I was saying Firefox has detected that the server is redirecting the request for this address in a way that will never complete. So literally, when I submitted this, it would send to Facebook request, and when it was finished, it would redirect to Facebook request with with all of the keys and with the state and the code, which is an OAuth feature. But so essentially it was just resubmitting to this page over and over and over again. So if I set this to redirect underscore URI instead, that is one of the values that get login URL actually uses. So that should work fine now. So I'll refresh this, and you can see it's oh, it's not even getting that, because I actually, one of the things I did was rename this to FB request and handle FB login, because I thought maybe Facebook has a problem with me naming my functions with the word Facebook in it. So, but that wasn't it. So I can actually just click the login with Facebook button now, and you can see I'm loading my handle Facebook login. It's redirecting me here, and it's giving me this long string of stuff. Now what this is it's an authentication key, which is the whole premise behind OAuth. Is like every single time you make a request for data, it gives you an authentication key and a state, and then you have to and then just automatically this is sent to and from the database, to and from the Facebook database, to actually to validate whether or not you have access to the information. It's actually fairly complicated. Not to be perfectly honest, I don't fully understand it, but I know that basically in this handle Facebook login, I now have access to, because we actually finished writing this function in the FB Connect library, where we're setting this user equal to me, which is grabbed from the API. Essentially, I now should have access to my Facebook information. So what I can do is I will load my Facebook Connect library, this load library, FB Connect. And then what I want to do is check if the user exists. I hate doing that. Okay, if this FB Connect connect user. Now this user variable has been set. It's a publicly declared property of the FB Connect library, and I've set it to me, which is from the API /me, which should be equal to all of their data. So right now what I'm checking is this variable right here should be an array filled with all of their data. So if it exists, I would very much like to see it. So we're going to print it just first. This is going to be, well, actually mine, all of my data, if it actually worked. So we'll go this FB Connect user. And actually, why don't we echo out pre-tags before it so it looks all cool and the way arrays should be viewed. Save that. Otherwise, we'll just echo could not log in at this time or something like that. I'll save that, and now let's run it. Boom! Look at all my Facebook information. So essentially, what I have done is, because I allowed our app access to my information, I now have access to it with this this FB Connect user array, which contains all of my data. So now, as this function says it will do, it'll handle the Facebook login. See this string or this site right here, the handle Facebook login function. We don't want the user to actually stay here very long. We want to take this information, we want to compare it with our database. For example, the email address. You can see I am receiving my email address, as well as like a bunch of other information that I could store on my database, like say my gender, my Facebook username, a link to my Facebook profile, first and last name, full name, and my Facebook ID, as well as a bunch of things like I work at Keeping It Real 24/7. Just kidding, I don't actually remember doing that either. Okay. So anyway, what I can do now is, now that I have access to all this information, I could add it to a database. Or I could actually, for example, how about, why don't we create my database right now based on this information that I now have access to. Say my first name, last name, I'll say my Facebook ID, we'll store that on the database, and we'll store my email on the database. Because email is a very popular thing. It's something that you usually want to have access to. So let's create the database. Basically, I'm going to go into my FB Connect Tut, FB Connect Tut, log in. Here's my MySQL database, which I'm already connected to. I'll create a table called users and give it 5 fields. I might need to add one more. First one, it'll be pretty standard. We'll just go ID, integer, auto increment it and set it as the primary key. Then I will go first name. This will be 255. Last name, 255. FB underscore ID, or no, we'll actually write it out. Facebook underscore ID, and that'll be an integer. And lastly, we want my email address. We'll just leave that to email, set it as a varchar 255. That should all be good to go. We'll save it. Perfect. Okay. So what I'll do now is, instead of echoing out this information, we actually don't need to anymore. Now that we know that we're actually receiving it, what I want to do is create a model that's going to check if I'm already a user. If I am a user, log me in. If I'm not a user, if my email doesn't already exist in the database, then add me, insert me into the database, and then log me in. So we're going to create a model. Just call it users model, or just users, why not? We'll actually set it as users.php. Open it up. And then we'll start a new class, call it users extends ci underscore model. And then we'll decide what we'll decide what these functions are called in when we're actually going to call them. So we'll say if is underscore member. But of course, we need to load the model that we just created. So we'll go this, load model, users, and then instead of this is member, we'll go this, users is member. So if they are a member, we'll do the following. Otherwise, this model or this users sign up from Facebook. So then we can also we'll call another model called, or another function called this users login. and that'll just create a bunch of code that will log us in. So we'll sign them up from Facebook, and then we'll log them in. Users log underscore in. Cool. Now let's go ahead and write these functions. The first one we'll check is member. Actually, now that I think about it, we should actually be passing in the array that contains all of their data to the isMember and the sign up from Facebook, as well as the login. So first thing I'll do, instead of referencing this Facebook user, is I'll just create another variable and call it FB or Facebook underscore user is equal to this FB connect user. Okay, and this property, so it doesn't need parentheses at the end. Okay, and then we will pass in the Facebook user to all of these functions. Beautiful. Okay, and that's where I'll leave off on this video. In the next video, we'll start writing some of these functions